On this lesson, we're going to work on our second cat. So, as you can see, I have opened my file that I exported from Illustrator, and just as before, I'm going to go to my crop tool and move it on the edges while pressing Alt to give it a little bit more room. Now I'm going to select my layers, all of them, while I press Shift, and lock the transparency. Now remember to have your selection with auto select so you can select everything. I'm going to select these red masks, and for now I'm just going to remove the visibility because I'm not going to be working on those, and I'm going to begin to paint. So let's begin with the tail. I'm going to go directly with my mixer brush. I'm going to actually bring my brush first because I think I need more contrast. So I'm going to sample my orange and then move it a little bit to get something darker, and just begin giving it some shadows to my shapes. So you could go again to your selection and select the layer that contains the legs. You should try to add like shadows to only one part of the hand. For example, here all the shadows are on the left side. So try to be consistent with that, with your light. Now I'm going to go to my head and do kind of a big brush there. Remember that you can increase or decrease the size by pressing the open bracket or the close bracket. And now I'm going to sample that color, go back to my mixer brush, and then begin making this softer. And keep doing that on the rest of the areas where you apply the chalk brush. Now I'm going to work a little bit more on the face, and I'm going to select a darker orange and try to give it a little bit more of contrast. Remember, you can undo as many times as you want. Just be sure to get the results that you're looking for. Add a little bit of shadow below the eyebrows and the mouth. And then let's bring a little bit of a highlight. So you could add that highlight here on the top. And also here on the bottom. And you may think that the highlight in a shadow is kind of odd, but what that is doing is that probably the floor is reflecting a little bit. And I think it works nice because it gives a little bit more volume. So you could add that. So let's add a little bit of highlight here. So keep working on adding shadows and highlights as much as you want. Now I'm working on the ears, so the same technique. If you want to go directly with the mixer, that's okay. And if you want to use first the chalk brush and then kind of blend it with the mixer, that's okay too. So you can see here how I am adding a little bit more shadow on the bottom. I just blended it with different tones of orange. And I'm gonna work on the inside of the ears a little bit. Just maybe a little bit darker. Now let's work on the sweater. You can select a color that is actually more blue. That's gonna give a nice contrast, so something like this. And I'm gonna make it a little bit darker for the arms. As I said, so I have a nice contrast. Now I'm gonna add a little bit of shadow to the eyebrows, so a darker orange, and you can see how that is giving a little bit of volume. Now let's bring back the layers that we hide or remove the visibility, and I'm gonna actually make a selection. So all you have to do is click on the layer little thumbnail, and let's press Alt. And when you do that, you're gonna make a selection. Now you can go to the layer that contains the sweater, which is layer 17 in my case, and then go here on the bottom. You can see the adjustment layers, that is this little icon. And let's select hue and saturation, and here you can move a little bit the color, so you could play with the hue, saturation, and lightness. So let's move a little bit the lightness and the saturation, something like this. And you could go between the layers and just press Alt and click to mask it, and I'm gonna do the same. Remember to press Alt to make the selection, and then go to hue and saturation. And you could actually input the same values that you did on the other one, or you could make it like eyeballing it on the arms. So your goal is trying to get the same results that you got on the other part of the sweater. And you can see here how very simple we can use those shapes that we create in Illustrator as masks. And you could also change the color if you go and change the hue to maybe, instead of being here something a little bit less different, to be something more. I'm going to create a new layer, place it on the bottom, and fill it with my paint bucket with white. Now the next thing I want to do is go to my mixer and select a light gray, and try to give it a little shadow on the feet for this cat. So it's not floating, it has a little shadow on the floor. You can add one that is a little bit darker, so something like this. And now you can see how the cat is standing there on our background. Now we're gonna go to our the top of our layers. We're gonna create a new one and fill it with black, and go to filter, noise, add noise. You could play with the amount until you get something that you like. And I'm gonna hit OK. Again, go to my overlay mode. You can see how that is too much. Select this one, and let's play with the opacity and take it down. You could also use this little handle, and I think that's okay. Now you can go to this layer. Let's make this like, I'm turning off the transparency so I get the right color. And I'm gonna go back to my brush and select my chalk. And you can see how now that is back. And I'm gonna make it a little bit smaller. Or you could also select this other kind of rounded brush. Actually, any brush that is hard enough can work. So we're gonna make those here, so those lines that were indicating the 4 that we had on our sketch. So I'm gonna do it like this, just making some lines with that dark orange. They're kind of zigzag lines. You can put them wherever you think they can work. So I'm doing it all around the face. I can go and play with my blending modes and select something like multiply. You can see that that is too much, so you can lower the opacity to something like 30 or 37, something like that. And now we have our cat ready. I hope you have enjoyed this course. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.